Обърни се. Добре, би трябвало да работи.
Waiting Excel. Добре. Виж ли, би трябвало да е лайв вече.
Цялата долна към
Да, лайф е.
Live level.
Да.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to round 5 of ACS 2025. I'm Christian Michael. I'm going to be the chair of this amazing round. And I don't have to for God knows autorism, but I don't care. So I would like to start with asking you about your team order, starting with OG.
Първи Тодор, втори Симеон.
Thank you so much.
Първи.
All.
First Elina, second Elica.
Thank you so much. Closing government.
First Simon, second Thomas.
And closing opposition.
First Elena, second Elislav.
Thank you all. So without further ado, I would like to invite the Prime Minister for his 7-minute speech here.
Can I ask a question about the government? Is it too late?
What the fuck, Salah?
Не, сега почваме да правим, ти какво си мислиш?
If you want, you can ask me on a POI.
Защо? Бъде тая. Да.
Не стане хубаво.
Си много прост.
Ти си го оставя за 21
Опа.
Цели 4 човека ще ви гледат.
I'm
Двама
sorry,
от
you
нас,
have
двама
50
тях сме ние.
After 3, 2, 1. Dear panel, see how this is an actor type motion, so we need to prioritize to fight for the needs of the house as an individual, dear panel. So, very intuitively, even from here, individualism is better, but I'll prove this. Why are you going to be motivated to be an entrepreneur in this culture from our side? First, the government supports you, supports the private businesses, the investments, the money in entrepreneur side can't say it. But you have practical benefits. I mean, it tells you if you create business, you get like capital from even from the start. If you just continue to run this business for some time, let's say for some period of time, you will continue to get money. You will get freedom to do different things. You will get places to actually build your businesses. You have free people to actually fulfill the jobs in your place, so you get all these practical benefits that the government tells you the government will give you, so you're very motivated from these practical things. Also, second, you have personal freedom. You know this. I mean, they are advertisement, they have very good advertisement on this. You have posters, you have TV ads, and they tell you more types of education, different scholarships. You can do whatever you want. You have this freedom that you don't have from the other side, but I will explain this. I mean, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to be financial or I don't know, political type of person. You can be whatever, and you still can be entrepreneur, and that motivates you because it actually can affect everybody very positively. Third, it is this narrative that you are going to be better this way. This is this mental impact in this culture because you have again these posters, these successful people. You see they live happily. You see them in the social media. You see they are just better, and they are in this culture. There is this from the one side they advertise this good life, in our side where you do whatever you want, this is very interesting, you have money, you have happy family, and from the other side where when you don't have a business and you are not successful, and they show you the bad side of the things when you don't have a business. So you are very motivated to actually be an entrepreneur. Why don't you need to be successful to actually be happy from our side? You don't need success, you need to just be a businessman. First, you do what you like. This is actually the delta. In collectivism, they tell you you need to do this one thing or the other one or two from these three as a whole things. You need to do this, you need to work this, you need to actually build your life around this, and this is the norm. And they tell you this from the moment you are born to the moment you die. You can't just stop believing it because it is so mental. Again, from the advertisements, from the politicians who have so big authority over you, and you just believe all these people because they say this to you every day from your life, and you choose the life that doesn't really make you happy, but you choose it just because they have planted so deep in your mind. Second, there is this free choice from our side, and people always love having this free choice, because in these societies where there is this collectivism, these people on the top decide what these large groups of people will do, right? This is even from the info slide, but they can't know what is the best for every single individual, because people are just different, they have different interests, they are the only ones who actually know what is best for them, and this guy on the top can't know what is best for every single one of them because there are so many. And again, people on just primitive level are just different, so you can't know for sure what is best for them, but they can, because they are them. They have their own problems, they have their own goals, they have their own complexes, even complexity, I think. So they have their own dreams. You can decide for them because it will make them unhappy in some time later. So even if you are not successful in our worst case, you are again going to be happy because you have this free choice, which actually makes you happy on everyday basis, because you don't have this feeling, oh, they have decided for me, oh, why did I do this? I just spent the last 20 years building something that I don't even like, because just they told me this. And in the same time, you don't certainly like what you do, because again, you know what you like and what you don't like, and when they decide for you, they can't know for sure that you will like what you do for 65 years until you retire, let's say. Also, why is success in collectivism worse than not so much success in individualism from our side? First, freedom is most important, dear panel, because you need until 65 years old, you need to work 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5, the same thing over and over, the same people. In the same time, you're not flexible. Even this, you can't spend that much time in your kids, with your life, with your friends, sometime later in your life. You have not so much time for personal goals and ambition, hobbies, all these things that actually make people happy again on daily basis. You just feel chained because you have to do the same thing over and over again, and not because you want to do it, because someone tells you you need to do it. And the lack of freedom is this very key thing here. Yes.
What are you talking about? 9 to 5s exist in an individualist world. People clean the streets in an individualist world. Why would you not be the person who cleans the streets and not the entrepreneur?
Just from our side, understand this: when you have this individualistic culture, it is more likely, it gives you prerequisite to be entrepreneur, to be businessman, to not clean the streets, to actually have your own business. And when you are an average person at this house, just because the chance for you to actually have your own business and not to have 9 to 5, but to actually decide your own work time and all this shit, it is just more likely for you to actually be happy from our side, because you have this much bigger chance to actually be free, to be happy because of this. Second, you feel special because you're not like the others. You have your own thing that you do for a living. Maybe it isn't successful, but you're not like the others. You're the main character in your own life, because you're not like in this rat race that everyone does the same thing over and over again. and in the same time, third, it is you're not going to be bored because again you do what you like and not something that the other have decided that you will like. So again, bigger chance for you to actually do what you like for the rest of your life because you have chosen it yourself. So maybe you will be more reasonable in this. And it is harder to succeed from their side because you have to compete with all these people in this main field, and all these people are just there to compete with each other. And from our side, you can choose just this field where you are alone or 2-3 other persons. And second, you are demotivated from their side because you don't like what you do. From our side, you're not. And because of this, you are more happy at this house from our side because of this result opening government. Thank you.
Thank you, Rico, for this wonderful speech. And I would like to invite the leader of opposition for her 7-minute speech. Here.
Не го ебам. Кажи ми да. Те ти казват, че ще си говориш, просто ги ебавай, кажи, че няма да си съксес.
Вика, не може да ги автомобили сме.
Не, може да.
Може да ги четеш,
Ай,
нали?
Так.
Окей.
Какво пише, бе?
I can't wait for this.
Моля?
Finally, before I start with our main argument with four mechanisms, I want to start with a quick frame, which is why would there be innovation on our side of the house as well, and you'll see why this is so important for our argumentation later on. Notice that here are two reasons that do not depend on competition, so this means that innovation would still be on our side of the house as well. Firstly, here's the bizarre analysis. Scientists are just naturally curious people, which is why they're likely to be doing science and be trying to innovate things simply because they want to, simply because they like to. This is in their nature. These people exist. I don't have to prove why scientists exist. Like imagine some person in Ban working 24/7 for free, and just in some dark room trying to find some new thing or just discover something. They get no salary for this, but they still do this. They have this very proximate personal incentive. But secondly, people just want to make their lives easier. They want to make their lives better. Incentive does not change outside of the house, so there will be innovation. Ability for innovation is the same simply because same resources are on both sides of the house. Now, moving on to first argument, you live a significantly better life on our side of the house. Why? Mechanism 1. Lottery of birth plays a lesser significance. How does this look like on their side though? The social margin between the richest and the poorest is much more significant. Why? Because of firstly, number one, greed. You feel threatened by other people's success because of this kind of competitiveness that is way too toxic on their side of the house, meaning that you're likely to keep your profit for yourself, don't share it, or the thing you invented, don't help the poor, etc. But second reason, money is not spread out evenly. Resources are not spread out evenly. Firstly, by influence, but secondly, intuitively, their world is not communistic world, their world is more capitalistic, so I think that you can buy that the resources are not spread out evenly, which is why this social margin will be much more significant later on, Sava. Now, secondly, what does this mean though? This means that the birth of lottery plays a significant role in your life. Now, how does this actually impact though? Notice that there's an 80% chance to be born into a poor family on their side. 18 to be one of the middle class and 2% to be actually one of the richest. Mathematically, this means that as an individual being born into such a community, the likelihood of being one of the poorest is extremely high. Notice why this is bad. Firstly, this screws up my entire future because, well, you cannot escape the poverty trap. Why? On their side, you are less likely to be able to escape the poverty trap. Firstly, there are no social structures that help you. The community does not care enough to help. Everyone is still pursuing individualistic goals. They can only lose if they try to help you firstly, but secondly, it's unlikely for people to actually vote for this because they care about themselves much more. They don't want to spread these resources for the people that had less luck in life. But secondly, even this chance existing, to be born of the poor population, is bad because it is a risk that they are taking when they prefer to be born into such a world. This does not exist on our side. We're sure that we'll be born in a relatively good state. Yes, sure, we might not be the richest guys, but at least we have, I don't know, we're likely to have a home, functioning facilities, etc. Now, what happens on our side in more specifics? Notice that the social margin between the richest and the poorest does not exist, or at worst it is significantly smaller. Why? Number one, resources are spread out more evenly. Secondly, community benefits when all have the ability to contribute. Why? Firstly, because they allow individuals to be able to contribute. This ability is unique to our side of the house because now you're actually allowed to be able to do this. On their side of the house, you don't have the ability because the community as a whole does not see the benefit of the individual contributing to all. In this sense, therefore, everyone will still work for their own benefit. But secondly, this means that the birth lottery does not play a role in your life on our side of the house. Like, all people have probably similar income. All people have like probably similar facilities in which they're living. Probably have like similar opportunities in life, similar like same level of education, etc. Now, what does this mean? Mathematically, it is good because the probability of me being poor is extremely low, and that's why we kind of prefer this world, because we don't know whether it's the likelihood of me being born into such a family, but I would rather be sure that I will at least have these basic things, like I'll be like in a middle class family on our side of the house as well, for sure. Now, why is this good? Panel, we're not taking the risk firstly, but secondly, you can actually have a good life, you can actually have a good education, and things like healthcare are much more accessible as well, but you see, this is our next mechanism. Now, we can compare the poor guy, which is the most likely one on their side of the house, to the mediocre kind of normal guy on our side of the house, and notice that we will probably have more money, we will probably get more opportunities in life, less social struggles, etc. But even if we weigh the middle class or high middle class guy on their side of the house, we would still prefer our side of the house. Secondly, why? Because second mechanisms, better support structures emotionally and financially. How does this look like on their side? Firstly, you benefit from the struggle of others because this minimizes your competition. Like, you have the incentive for the poor to exist because you want a workforce, because you want somebody to be in this position, because they cannot like compete with you because they are not as good. But secondly, there is no ability for them to exist, meaning that for such support structures to exist, because the large population won't vote for it. I already proved this. Now, what happens on our side of the house though? Like, you're interdependent. You don't benefit from the struggle of others because you depend on them. Like, your own good increases when the others are also better off. And now, notice that no competition is not necessarily bad, because I already proved to you in the frame why innovation will still happen. Which leads us to our next mechanism, which is more accessible innovation and healthcare as well. Now, what happens on their side? I get innovation less quickly, firstly. This is crucial for when I need a specific type of medical treatment, for example, that I need to get right now, because otherwise I might die. But notice, what does this mean? It means that many people might die because I'm not getting this cure in time. It's inefficient, it's quite immoral, we do not stand behind it. But this would also say that a poor person might not even get the invention on their side of the house. Why? Because firstly, on the ability level, it's much more expensive. Companies have the incentive to make it because they get more profit from the richest, and they're fine with this. But secondly, they don't really care about the poor being better off, because they're scared of the poor actually getting richer, being able to overturn this kind of regime. On our side, I get innovation more quickly because the company who invented it shares it with the collective at the time when they discovered it. They're not like keeping it like for further development. And secondly, this helps the community pursues mutual prosperity, which is why they're likely to do this. Now, the bottom line of all of this is that you, as a person generally, are more likely to be living much better because you get the innovation on time. You're less likely to die because of these things. Even if you're the top 2% of richest people in the capitalistic world, you still might die on their side of the house. You will live on our side of the house as well. We want to live. Panel, vote for open
I would like to invite the Deputy Prime Minister for 7 minutes speech here. Also, I want to remind you that you are very useful. Please offer and take one.
Okay, so starting in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to start by refuting some of the things that were said in the last page. So first of all, innovation. They spent a lot of time saying how innovation on their side is actually going to be better. And they said two things basically. One of them being that scientists are naturally curious, and the other thing being that money would be spent equally. And I'm going to explain why those things won't work actually towards innovation being having innovation quicker, basically. So first of all, money spent equally. What incentive do people have to develop something if they're not going to get any money for it in return? That's very logical. People do things for money. That's something extremely normal. We are studying in order to have jobs, in order to have money so we can live better lives. When there is no more money, what would motivate those people to be innovative? What would motivate those people to actually do something with their lives that is more than everyone else is doing? And they're simply relying on scientists to be curious in order to have innovation, which is for me very outrageous, because the only innovation isn't in medicine. You have innovation in forms of AI, innovation in forms of tech companies, innovations in forms of all sorts of other things. You cannot tell me that the people who created AI just because they were curious and they had no financial motive for that whatsoever later. So again, why money being spent equally would hurt our lives as well. So basically what we're saying on our side, and we want to focus on the individual because that's how the motion was framed. On our side, we have the individualistic culture, which pushes a person towards thinking that they're responsible towards their action, for their own lives and for their own actions. So that makes them logically more likely to get well educated, logically more likely to fight for themselves and to fight towards a better future, because they know that if they don't fight for themselves and if they don't fend for themselves and don't get a good job all by themselves, they will not have any other opportunity. And that panel is more motivating than having let's say the pillow to fall on if you don't succeed, and you have a support structure of, let's say, someone who's going to be giving you money even though you're poor. Why does that actually not stimulate people towards working? Because people are calmer, and when people are calmer about stuff, they're not as likely to work as hard towards actually achieving those goals. So now, why does the individualistic culture, individualistic society make it more likely for a person to succeed? So first of all, individualistic cultures and individualistic societies focus on laws and legislation that helps people achieve their dreams and goals. So, for example, lower taxes on businesses and corporations, maybe laws that are not as, let's say, restricting on some, in some ways. Okay, fast.
This is for the co-opening half. Do you guys think that markets exist in collectivism?
Can you elaborate further?
Is there an exchange of goods for money in a collectivist society?
Yes, there is, obviously. Okay. How can there be a world where there's no exchange, there's no markets? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. We're saying that innovation and being successful as a person is more likely on our side than on other side. So, as I was saying, measures that are more likely to help you succeed, lower taxes and lower restrictions, because, and that's the most important thing in this debate, they focus towards individuals, as I said, being responsible for themselves rather than relying on help from their communities. Because when you have help from your community, when you have something to fall on, money that is waiting for you, you're not as likely to work for yourself. So now, I want to go back to their speech a little bit after this. So they were saying that basically less likely to succeed in life because you have a bigger chance of being poor, and rich people have the incentive to keep poor people poor and unhappy. And I'm going to explain why this is simply not true. Well, as they said countless times, poor people are the majority of population of our side. Even though I do not fully agree with this, people that are not very, very rich are the majority in society. That's a fact. And those people that are very, very rich actually have an incentive to keep the people that are less rich happy, because if those people are not happy, they can simply just vote for someone that doesn't support this regime and overturn this regime. That is not something very hard to do. You just simply, and that's what happened in the past with actually developing communism. You have a capitalistic culture, and you have a guy that just wrote the Communist Manifesto as a political campaign in order to run on communism. And the fact is that those businessmen, they have a big incentive to keep the poor people happy, and when those poor people and then when those less fortunate people start getting unhappy, they will get more from those rich people, because once again they have an incentive to keep them happy. Why are you on our side more likely to escape poverty than on their side? Well, as I said once again, you have a feeling that you're all alone in life. You have a feeling that the only way for you to escape this life is by getting educated, by working hard, and by basically striving towards achieving your goals. So why does society help you? As I already explained, easier and better basically opportunities towards businesses and something like that. So when you are on our side of the aisle, you're more likely to actually start working for that, because you just simply have no other choice. When you have no other choice, people strive towards taking the easier path, and that's very logical. I'm not going to work for something if I have a backup plan that is easier and more achievable. When you have more help, when you have more accessible, let's say, I don't know, more money given like that, and also more money being given away and just for support, that means actually a harder life for the individual that we're talking about. That means higher taxes, laws that are more restrictive, laws that hurt their chances for innovation, their chances towards personal development and personal growth. And ultimately, the impacts that we achieve on our side, better development, better chances towards development, better chances towards achieving your life goals, is ultimately supersede their impacts of just having a pillow to fall on and money to be given to you if you fail. Because on our side, you don't have this opportunity to fail, and that's why you're more likely to work hard towards achieving your goals. Thank you.
Wonderful speech, and I would like to invite the deputy leader of opposition to close the workhouse.
Da, așa. Azi există așa. Cât e, cât noapte? Cât o cu fani?
Panel, two things in my speech. First, you're going to hear the impacts of opening opposition, because notice open government doesn't have one, and therefore if you have impacts, we're automatically going to go over them, simply because you cannot weigh an argument if you don't have impacts. I think that's very intuitively. Now, first of all, and then I'm going to engage with the case and explain why their rebuttal doesn't work. I think that's also very intuitive. The impacts. Better life for the individual. Now, how does that work? First of all, there are like more stable social connections, which doesn't engage with the point, even if we take the best case and you're not actually very successful, I mean you're simply a mediocre guy who simply has food on his table, you simply have the more social connections on our side of the house, and they never really rebut this, so you have to buy it, which means you have more friends, because like sharing is caring. I think that's very very intuitive. And even if you don't have more friends and those friendships aren't like that stable, you're going to gaslight yourself that you have those friends simply because you see people doing things for yourself and you think they care for yourself. Going to take it after the 5 minutes, I promise. What does this mean? You simply feel more stable in your life because you know you have someone to rely on, you know you have someone to turn to, you're less likely to be depressed, which is like mental mental health impact, and also like economic stability. Now, how does that work? Even if you are like a very mediocre guy on our side of the house, it's going to be very like much better than being a random guy born in either China, India, or Africa. Notice how that's like 80% of the population of the world. Therefore, the probability of you being born in those extremely poor circumstances is very high. Therefore, we beat them on likelihood also. That's another metric. But even if you like, even comparing the like middle class guy who is going to be on entrepreneurship, and I'm going to explain later why he's not actually going to be a successful entrepreneurship, and the fact that like the burden skip that, oh, we don't need to prove to you why being successful is important, or like this is going to be true simply because you're going to be happy. Either way, it doesn't work, and it's basically like a lie. You still are going to feel better because you have the stability. Notice we prove to you stability over uncertain success and risk. That's the weighing. Stability is like way more long-termistic and way more stable. So and also additionally, you have more things simply because everything is shared. You like having things because you know you try to experience new things. I think that's also very intuitive. Now, the point about innovations, they're way more accessible, and that's like in terms of healthcare, in terms of like type of technologies. And how does this look like? There is a less probability of me dying because I cannot buy insulin, simply because insulin is way more accessible on our side of the house. But it also looks like me less likely to die in a car crash simply because the seatbelts don't exist because like companies decided to monopolize on them, and that's going to happen on their side of the house. Like and also it is less likely for like smaller probability of me dying because a company decided to monopolize on strategies to build houses that are like earthquake resistance. It's like many different scenarios, and you simply see the less likely probability of me dying on our side of the house. You don't see it on their side of the house. Why? Because companies like to monopolize on those things. And like it looks like in two ways. You firstly receive it earlier because companies don't keep them from themselves, and they share those ideas on the market simply because they're not afraid people are going to steal it. But second of all, the prices are much lower simply because there's like competition and all those like things. I think that's very intuitive. Now, going on to explaining why the case of opening opposition doesn't work. They tell you, oh, you can't be happy without being successful, but notice how that's a complete alabama because it doesn't work like that. Now, how does it actually work? You need money in order to survive. Therefore, when you're not successful, you cannot have money, you cannot survive, and therefore you're going to be unhappy simply because you have to beg for stutinki on the street from people who are not going to give it to you because they're greedy on their side of the house, because they care only for the individuals. And I think that's very intuitive. But now, this means that they actually have to prove the burdens why those startups are going to be successful, or you being a businessman is actually going to be very successful. And notice that they don't do that. And second of all, even if they prove to you why like this burden, they simply have to explain to you why it affects more people than like 10% of the population, to the point at which we explain to you that 80% of the population doesn't have an alternative rather than to work in a factory 10 hours a day, because that's what happens to people in China, that's what happens to people in India, that's what happens to people in Africa. I think that's very intuitive. And also, they say, oh, you're going to be happy because you're going to feel successful because you do what you like. But notice how success isn't objective. What this means is there are uneven startups. They're first of all, most intuitively, there are people that are going to be better than you in any field. Like they're simply people that there's always going to be someone better. Like you always you cannot compare your meat startup with like Amazon or whatever. Yes, Saba.
Do you think the Industrial Revolution and its consequences has been a disaster for the human race?
Oksaba, not going to answer the question. I'm sorry. That's like some crazy extension that's going to come from bottom half. Please don't credit it unless they prove it to you. I feel like it's going to be very, very high burden. Like simply on the lowest burden, we should win over them for both teams. They're crazy people from Varna. Don't credit it, please. So like going back to why success isn't objective, there's like always someone going to be better than you, and also there are people that have uneven startups in life. Therefore, there is always going to be that one person who has more money than you, more money to invest, and I think that's also very intuitive. And also, now what happens with the rebuttal of that we hear in second speech? He says, innovation is not going to exist because money aren't going to spend equally. People will do things for money, but notice how that's a backstop for their argument, because they say you don't need to be successful in order for you to be happy. Therefore, at the point at which they have that claim, they cannot like claim that you're not going to do something, like you're not going to be naturally curious as a scientist. But also, our reasons are not relying on money. And notice how the delta here is that on our side of the house, you're going to have enough money because bank is still going to pay you like that like middle wage. You're still going to be able to survive. On their side of the house, survival is unproven. And also they say, rich people are going to keep people happy. The reality check is that they don't do that. The facts are that the wages are lower, and for all those reasons I think it's intuitive to vote for opening opposition.
Thank you so much for this wonderful speech. Now I would like to invite the member of government to open the debate for the crowd. Here, finally this crazy various people. And the high burden extensions.
Too high for the next
Two high burden extensions. That Sava, I'm not going to advise
Okay. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Panel, you're going to hear two nice average burden extensions that actually have impacts beyond people will become entrepreneurs. First of all, more social mobility, but actually proving it and actually giving consequences that expand to basically anyone who is born, the average Ghanaian who is born in our world. And secondly, on why minorities are likely to have more individual rights on our side. Okay, first of all, what is something that per info slide is the goal of a collectivist society? Social harmony. What does that mean? You need to eliminate conflict between people, because that means that ostensibly society is more chaotic because there are various conflicts between people. And what do these conflicts mostly stem from? Just the struggle for survival, like trying to be better, trying to achieve all your needs and go beyond them. What does that mean? You need to struggle for resources. You need to struggle for a limited number of positions. Like there is a limit of how many people can be CEOs, as someone said in a previous debate. Okay, but how is this going to realistically be applied? OO doesn't give any social mechanisms that prove why people are going to be, how this narrative is going to be spread. They only assert it's going to happen. Like they say, oh, per info slide, this means that these people are going to be more socially cohesive. You're going to have more friends, etc., etc. But they also need. But we also that means we have the freedom to from CG. We have the freedom to claim that this will happen through state power exclusively. Why or mostly from state power. Why does this happen mostly from state power? Because that's the easiest thing to, the easiest way to implement it. Because because realistically, even if a norm exists in a society, there will be people who deviate from it, and in order to enforce it, you will have to have consequences and use the violence of the state in order to apply it. What does that mean? That means that social mobility will be lowered by just restricting how much someone can rise in a society. It is unrealistic for them to claim that they will be in a society where everyone is equal, because I think there are many societies with stark hierarchical differences that are, and social norms also that count as collectivist, and I will give two illustrations for this. First of all, caste system in India. We think this passes the test for collectivism because it strives to preserve social harmony by making place in the hierarchy hereditary, and is perceived as for the good of all people. Like it's not like social hierarchy is generally seen as something that is good for everyone in the hierarchy. Yes.
Look, you have to engage with our description of this world, not just say, oh, they're running India.
Okay, but I'm explaining why you are running India. like, okay, you are characterizing it, but realistically, you're characterizing it like that. But realistically, in the past thousands of years, there have always been societies which are collectivist and which do not have the limited amount of resources, the needed amount of resources for everyone to lead a decent life. Like that applies for the majority of cases, and you can't just assert that's the case. Okay, and so either way, you will likely have a very specific place in the social hierarchy in a collectivist society, simply because that is what aims to preserve social harmony the best, because otherwise there will be people who through various means try to get to the top. Okay, I don't have time for the second illustration. Okay, but why does success happen but why does social mobility happen in our world? It emphasizes individual success. Obviously, the best way to maximize individual success is to simply to rise to the top. Like positions which you need to have positions on the top, be they of economic, of social, of political power, or simply someone who earns more. Like in order to have a productive society, you need to have these positions because otherwise everyone is a farmer. Which means that in order for this to happen, you need to have you need to fill those positions somehow. In a collectivist society that aims to reduce conflict as much as possible, the easiest way to apply that would be to have strict social hierarchies. So it does not depend on your merits or how much you worked in order to get to some position in the hierarchy, but rather it will depend on where you were born, because that is something that is immutable and therefore works best for preserving social harmony. But we think our impacts are very much outweigh social harmony and are much more important, because what happens to the person who is there doesn't care if he has to fight some people in order to get to the position he wants. He wants to have it. That's why he does it in the first place. What does their world mean? It means a lack of hope. It means less money. It means a lack of hope. You're not able. You do not have a goal to strive forward to. You exist in a culture of mediocrity, which promotes being what you always were and be like your parents. Additionally, less money, simply because the majority of people are in low positions. We think competition increases the amount of money you start, simply because through market mechanisms you're likely to have people strive to achieve more, which means that they will have to do more in order to attract the same clientele. We think markets do exist. In our world, markets do exist. I don't know about the position. Okay. Secondly, less personal rights. I have a minute to prove this. I will trust. Okay. Social harmony depends on tradition. Realistically, will depend also on traditional societal structures. So the family unit, etc. What does that mean? That means that in order for it to be promoted in the minds of most people, in order for these structures to be promoted in the minds of people, you also need to have social stigmas against various deviations from it. For example, the family unit means that there will be that in the majority of cases there will be a mother and father and children. This hurts people from minorities, because not everyone wants to live this lifestyle. But social harmony as promoted by opposition requires it for it to be like that. Okay, what does that mean? Yeah, that means that essentially people will be much more likely to be people are much more likely to have their rights restricted, simply because in order to preserve a warped sense of social harmony, that means that you will need to restrict people from the public life which go against the values of certain other people, which means that inherently minorities will be less visible on their side. Thank you.
This wonderful speech, and I would like to invite the member of opposition to open up the debate from their side of the house. Here.
Dear Pano, the two worst things in this life are basically pain of isolation and crimes, and I'm going to explain why both of these things don't exist in our world. But first, why is the pain in isolation basically the worst thing ever that can happen to you? Because first, obviously we're social creatures, kind of biologically, we have this obvious need to find someone to be around people. But two, we also suffer in isolation because we believe that everyone else's opinions are true. Because when 100 people tell you one thing and you think another, obviously you're going to believe that the other people's opinion is more valid, or even if there were two people against the same thing. So if they isolate you, you're going to believe that you're probably bad, stupid, ugly, miserable, undesirable, boring, and things like that, just because they think so, or because you think that they think so. Therefore, this basically in isolation, it's very easy to hate yourself. It's very easy to hate your life because other people already hate you, right? But three, you also don't have anyone to cry to when you have problems, and this is very important because imagine when you're isolated, the big ups and downs feel like many downs and little ups, because when you have ups, you don't have anyone to share that with, so you're not so proud of that. But when you're down, there's not like anyone to pull you up. Imagine what we do when something very bad happens to me. I know it's okay because I'll just go and cry to Elena and she'll be like, it's okay, pain will go, right? But that won't happen on their side of the house. Because it's just that there's not like hope, no one stops you from, I don't know, self-harm and suicide, because sometimes you're not very like you cannot think very rationally, and there's this need that someone has to be there to just stop you from such impulses. Notice that. And also, secondly, what is more important? Who is more like happy? Lonely entrepreneur, or I don't know, normal person, or even a little bit poor person who has friends, right? It's a very simple comparison. But why is it likely to be isolated? First, there are just things that you cannot control that can lead to you being ostracized by other people. One, you can be ugly. Two, you can have this stutter that really makes people feel weird around you. Three, you can be just introverted by nature. Maybe you're just a creep a little bit and people feel weirded out by you. I mean, there are just people like that. And maybe you're just old. There are just old people that people don't like to be around, and this also can lead to you being isolated. It's not of your it's not in your control. But also people feel less empathy on their side of the house, meaning that they don't care so much about other people. If there is this lonely kid in the cafeteria, I won't go to this kid in the cafeteria because it's okay with me laughing with my friends, right? I'm concerned that he might just ruin the atmosphere or something like that. But on our side of the house, we will just prioritize that everyone feels good. Yes, in the collectivist society, the mindset is different. Like, right, you have the mindset of community as you grow up. You have the mindset of social interactions. That's something that you're used to, right? And closer social interactions, you have those things just because of the interconnectedness. That looks like that. Maybe you just live with extended family and have more social interactions. Maybe you just talk to neighbors more. Maybe you also have more valuable friendships because, as I said, you have more empathy. We think more about other people. Therefore, the bottom line is there's just no way to be isolated in our world. Just because everyone thinks of everyone else, there's no way that I'm going to be alone in this world. And the comparison is this: better to avoid isolation than to have this one chance to be a rich guy ever. Because, as I said, the isolation is basically the worst thing, right? Even if I'm very rich, if I'm isolated, I'll be miserable. But continuing with our second mechanism, that's about less crimes, and it's, I don't know. What happens on their side of the house in an individual mindset? Basically, what happens is you have this great chance of poverty, right? You have the great chance to need to do crimes just to escape poverty. Second, you have this mindset of prioritizing yourself because that's how you grew up. Maybe mommy told you that you're the best thing ever that happened to earth. Maybe mommy told you to avoid other kids because they're not as good as you. Maybe mommy told you to just look after yourself, not after others. Maybe mommy didn't tell you, but culture told you. I don't know. And three, you feel like less empathy later. You feel less empathy because you just don't think of others as much. That's by influence. I don't have to explain it. So why am I likely to do a crime with this kind of mindset, with these kind of circumstances? Because just I don't know. As I said, people are often in somehow unfortunate situations. They prioritize their small unfortune before others' big unfortunes, right? So even if I feel a little bit uncomfortable, then most likely I'm going to do this big or little crime. Maybe I won't pay taxes because I don't care that the government doesn't get enough money to give to beggars. I don't know. Maybe I throw trash where I shouldn't, and I ruin other people's atmosphere. Maybe they slip on a banana and fall and something like that. Maybe I steal from shops. Because I don't care that this owner will suffer after that. Maybe I break into someone's car. But on a collectivist mindset, you literally care about people now. You know all the ganos on the street, they're closer to you, you won't steal from them, and it's important to you that all the ganos live well and thrive. That's by influence. So I won't do crimes, right? Because one, you feel empathy towards people. You know that their cats died a year ago or something like that, so you won't hurt them further. But secondly, even if you don't know the Ganyo, you still don't prioritize your needs over his. The value of your life is the same as the value of his life and well-being. Impacts are obvious. Less crime, basically everyone feels better. But thirdly, and also very cool thing, Elon Musk will just give his money to people, right? Elon Musk, even if I get 100,000 a day from the beginning of Earth's existence, I still won't have as much money as Elon Musk has. He can donate a house a day to people. Imagine that. Thank you very much.
Speech, and I would like to invite the government whip to finish the bench from their side of the house to here.
Oh my, какой лист сама? Дай телефон. Дай 20 телефона.
Один фок надо на кул.
Тебя подъехать сделаю.
Абе, това не чех химикалка ли?
Да,
Не, брат, ниче химикалка, какво си?
страхотно.
Не, бе, защото аз вчера си загубих баш тая последния дебат.
А, не, аз си открадох през себе.
Не беше последния дебат.
Втория ми дебат. Това ми беше моят последен дебат. Добре.
Да.
Майя, тук няма място, бе. Какво е това? Да учите.
Това защото изхожда водата.
Мада? Да.
Водата закрива стрима.
Не ме интересува. Никой няма да го гледа с една сала. Никой няма да го гледа този стрим. Абе, как има толкова много листа, бе? Добре, заедно. Да кажем, че така е. Има, няма.
Окей. Да го гледа, да се види от страни. И аз искам.
Когато вчера ни се караше да си казвам имената, трябва ли да си казвам името?
Брат, си ми тамбурата започва. Виждай, без това ще се случи още 7 минути, как тя ще кажа.
Okay. 3, no. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay, you're fine. Just notice this quote that in communism, not everyone are better, just everyone are equally poor. So I'll start my argument with clarifying the first part of Sala's speech. He said for a reason that this motion is retrospective. Why is that? Because each society that he talked about we say we prefer to be born in this type of society. This doesn't mean that it should be today's society. It can be any type of society from any like region of history. It can be, for example, ancient Egypt if you want. Okay, so I will proceed with firstly refutation towards the closing composition thing, because that they're the only one that can engage with us currently. So first thing, their argument is particularly isolation and less crime. About isolation, this argument is completely symmetrical, because what are the reasons? Other people might hate you, they might not like you because of your looks, etc., etc. But this happens also on our side. On our side and on their side. This happens on both sides because this is something personal. And if I don't like you on personal thing, if I don't like you for your beauty or character, I won't like you in both words. So this doesn't work. The same is about empathy. Empathy is a human feeling. If it is a human feeling, you feel it in both words. So when you feel it in both words, you have empathy on our side also and on their side also. So this is completely symmetrical reason. Third thing is that, just second. Look, I think this is enough. This is their whole reasoning. People don't like you, you have empathy. In our world, you have less empathy. This is their whole reasoning for the isolation. So I practically prove that why their argument is completely symmetrical and doesn't stand. Second argument, less crime. They ran it in like a minute. So what they said about is they just that you care about people more. And again, their reasoning is empathy, and they know them. Okay, I proved why empathy is symmetrical, and you can't know everyone. That you're in collectivist society. When you're in collectivist society, you're not saying that you know everyone. It is just that you fight for the greater good. But the fact that we have empathy on our side, and we also have laws, we're like concrete with laws, means that you won't do crimes, and even if you do, this impact is very little and doesn't stand the chance it is bad. So the wank in this, I already proved why their arguments fall, and even if the crime argument doesn't fall, our impact is better, because actually Sava proves that we have a social mobility, and I will now prove something for the opening composition, and I will wait again. So refutation towards the opening composition. What is their argument? Just a second. I will first refute the frame. They say, why we have innovations? Well, we have innovations because scientists are naturally curious people and they want to get better. For scientists to improve on something, they need resources. And this is because everything that they do costs money because it's new and it's expensive. So to get this money, they must be financed. In collectivist society, they must be financed by the government or any type of organization. But notice how the government in collectivist society don't have so much money. Why that? And this is very important thing, so please notice that. Most probably collectivist society don't have much resources. Why is that? First, because each society has a lot of people. Each society have a lot of people and has a limited assets of resources, so we can get resources for everyone. So this means that the government probably would prioritize keeping people, giving them more resources to make them feel better and to not have a backlash, instead of investing in this thing, which is going to pay back in like 50, 100 years. So this is actually important also for the fact that they say that on our side we got only 80% of the people, whole 80% of the people are poor. Okay, but on their side, 100% of the people are poor. Come on, like you don't have these resources. Why is that? Limited resources, much society. If you divide it equally between each person, this means that it's simply not enough. So they say we're giving them resources, but come on, this is not enough. So practically, on their side, everyone is poor. On our side, only 80% of the people are poor. So we are better on this thing. They also say that you're less likely to escape, no one cares about you, there is no institutions that help. Okay, I won't repeat that. My first speaker proved why we have social mobility. The fact that they say that we have no structures that help you, this is not true. They have structures that limit you, like they have hierarchy. So we beat them also in this thing. So I'll continue with the wing. firstly, this what I refuted is practically why their argument falls, because I prove why on our side, why on their side they have even more poor people, which is practically their whole argument. The whole argument is that we have more people. I refute that. So even if this stands, what happens is that they say, oh, we live better. I say why they don't live better, because they don't have these resources. And even on weighing, the fact that some prove that there is a social mobility, and the fact that I said, and this is what Sam I think also said, that you can be born in any time in history, means that you will even have less resources. So the fact that we have this is why we get over them, because our impacts are strong. So quick weighing with open government. Okay, our arguments, the two arguments that Sam learned, is impact the whole society, every person in the world. Their arguments impact the people that are only going to be businessmen. So this is like 1% of people will impact the 100% of people. So on the scale, on the metric that we impact more people, we clearly beat them. And also to have their social mobility, which they also try to prove, our argument is logically prejudiced, because we prove why we're going to be born in such society that we are going to get this ability. They prove why they will get this ability in this society. We prove why we are this society. So bottom line of the debate, we go over opening government because of the metric. I refuted both of the oppositions, and I weighed ours to them. So vote for closing government.
Speech, I would like to invite the opposition group to close down this one.
Alright. In the most romantic movie ever made, Before Sunrise, Celine, the objectively better character, says, I believe if there's any kind of God, it wouldn't be in any of us, but just this little space between. If there's any kind of magic in this world, it must be in an attempt of understanding someone, sharing something. I will start with the most basic point. Yes, empathy exists. It is a natural impulse. The extent to which it exists obviously varies. The moment you are brought up in a society which values social relation and cohesion above all, it is much more intuitive that this empathy will be much more emphasized within you. It is explicitly that in an individualist society, you struggle for connection. In an individualist society, it is up to you to proactively make connection with others and make friendships. In a collectivist society, it is the default that there is a connection with others. There is an understanding of support and of community that exists within you. The moment this is true, it is much obvious that you're closer to people around you, that you care more of them, that you understand them more, that you know them more. The moment that CG's rebuttal to us is that empathy exists and is symmetrical, it doesn't matter because there's obviously a variation. And this variation obviously makes a difference in the way you treat people around you. The moment this is true, firstly, people around you will treat you with more empathy because they're more empathetic in regards to social cohesion. But secondly, you can't know everyone. No shit, you can't know everyone. But you know those around you. Your immediate circle is the place where most people do crimes. Go figure. That's why there are like neighborhoods where crime is much higher, because you do crimes where you can go, you know? You don't go to like 8 kilometers away just to commit a crime. The moment you know the people around you, you feel much safer because you know you can rely on them, and you know there are bonds that like protect you. That's why your grandma in buttfuck nowhere doesn't lock her door, because she trusts the people around you, because she goes in the community. The more this is true, here's our very basic impacts. you feel safer and better in the society. You know that like the moment you're at your social lowest, you always have a social support network. The moment you're depressed and don't feel like socializing, you know that the default is people will be helpful to you. You don't have to prove yourself to your friends for them to be your friends. You know they're there because that's the understanding. And this is a significant impact because social isolation is a real threat to a lot of people that is much harsher than any of the positives that are inherently speculative within this debate. CG says, the second speaker says, Sarah proves to you that social mobility. No, Sarah proves incentive for social mobility. Sarah never proves capacity for social mobility. This is the same problem that plagues OG. Sure, you want to be rich. Who doesn't want that? The basic problem is, how the fuck are you gonna get rich? They never understand that. Okay, presumably there will be people whose motivation actually influence their decision making and they actually live better lives. Sure. First of all, they never explain how big that group is. That's marginal. Second of all, the difference between being lower upper class and lower middle class and upper middle class is inherently marginal. The moment you can't become a billionaire because you won't become a billionaire, you're not Steve Jobs, get a grip. The moment that doesn't happen, they need to prove that this margin of financial stability is much greater than the security that under the veil of ignorance, no matter where you're born, you will have a social network and you will never get to the point where you feel that you feel completely isolated. This marginality of money is much less prevalent than the threat. Also, the moment you live in a high trust society where crime is less likely to exist, this works reversely. It is much less a chance for you to become a criminal, which is good on basically a lot of levels, but too many. Firstly, you won't go to jail and you won't live for 2 years with in the worst conditions imaginable, having cockroaches as your cellmates and having with aggressive, immoral people being your only social interactions. But secondly, you don't have that plague on your conscience where you get to commit crime. But even if you're not the one committing crime, the pure the lack of anxiety that you live in a society full of crime, basically is an impact in of itself, which is pretty sure. Also, to address the meme, good luck living in an individualist ancient Egypt, my guy. I'm pretty sure you want a collectivist society in ancient whatever the fuck. Okay, OG. 0% of the population is entrepreneurs, or 0.5. Why the fuck will you be an entrepreneur? Just mathematically, even if you are an entrepreneur, why will you succeed? Will succeed? There are actual incentives people to not be entrepreneurs, right? First of all, you risk averse. Entrepreneurship is inherently risky, so you won't do it. Second of all, you want the economic stability that comes from traditional 9-to-5s, which they explicitly say fucking suck. Etc., etc. I don't think the USSR assigned people lawyers at birth. I don't know what they're talking about. Both teams talk about the hereditary professions, but hear me out. The moment you live in a capitalist individualist society, you also become a farmer if your father is a farmer, because to actually become something of yourself, you need resources. That becomes by inheritance. Second, you're much closer to certain types of professions, so you develop a passion for it. Then third, you gain a connection to certain professions. So the moment both of propositions say that, oh, in a collectivist society you become what your parents become, that happens in an individualist one as well, because it's the easiest path forward to make money. Therefore, that point is no. I never understand if Volvo talk about a marketless society or no. I never, because I don't know, man. The moment people exchange goods for money, I don't understand why there won't be class differences. I don't understand why we will all be middle class, as their life actually, as their argument illustrates. Patents exist. I doubt patents won't exist in their world at the moment. Markets exist, because I don't know, patents are kind of essential for market goods to exist. Therefore, I don't think everything will be open source. I don't know. It just feels like a weird argument. Like they never prove why equal distribution of resources is sufficient, and I never understood how exactly you're gonna sufficiently redistribute resources. Like I buy that there will be people who like there will be some sort of social safety net. I feel like social cohesion and less crime is more important than that. We just have funnier impacts. Vote for us.
This wonderful speech and thanks for this wonderful debate. Now get out of the room, it is closed down.
Чисто да го разгледам това място.
Добър ден. Добър ден, трябва да беше.
Взема ли срещата?
Не мога да правя, че не бъдем на такова състояние.
Това някой хубаво да го спре.
Да. Тази е моя. Да.
Айде се поразкарате, може.
Спокойно.